Yeah, thank you, dear viewers. Here is another segment entirely again on Daybreak Africa. Today we shall be discussing with a big fish, of course, from Ondo State, in person of Comrade Adiraboye. That is the chairman of the Ondo State Union of Journalists. The chairman of NUJ Ondo State. Comrade Aditono, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Presenter. I am Aditono Adiraboye. I'm the chairman of the Nigeria Union of Journalists Ondo State Council. I'm happy to be here. Viewers at home, I welcome you to this program.
Thank you so much, sir. Of course, how is the profession in Ondo State?
Well, we thank God. The profession of journalism is thriving in Ondo State. In fact, I want to say that by the grace of the Almighty God, we are moving. And I want to let the public know that here in Ondo State, we have the best crop of journalists you can be proud of anywhere in the world. They are professional, they are versatile, they are accomplished writers. They know their onions, and they adhere strictly to the ethics of the profession. And that is why we really have problem with journalists and the practice of journalism in Ondo State. We know by our calling that we are supposed to be the watchdog of the society, and that role we have been performing effectively well in Ondo State. I can assure you that here in Ondo State, if we talk of journalism, we talk of people who knows the job and who perform the job creditably well.
Wow, that's nice. That's beautiful. Sir, if I may ask, to you, who is a journalist?
Well, a journalist is a person trained who has acquired the requisite knowledge about the media. They must know about the electronics, the print, and all the various forms of outlet by which to reach out to the people. It is the business of a journalist to educate, enlighten, and ensure that what goes on in the society is brought to the knowledge of the people. And apart from that, it is also the job of a journalist to ensure that government is held accountable to the people in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which allocated that role to the media. And that is why it is not it's not an all-common affair. There are journalists and there are journalists. There are those who get crashed into the job. Those are not really journalists. There are some who are pseudo-journalists who know next to nothing about the job. Therefore, you don't classify them. But here, a journalist, from my knowledge as a professional, is somebody who is well trained in the art of ensuring that the public is adequately informed, entertained, and also hold government accountable to the people.
That is beautiful, sir. Of course, that will take me to our next question. Of course, in this job of journalism, we realize and we know that we do have quacks in the profession. How are you able to curtail them in those things?
Let me go down memory lane. Fake news has been with us from creation. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were living peacefully until a purveyor of fake news, which is the Satan, came and deceived Eve by telling her that, look, what they are telling you is not real. If you eat the fruit in this garden, you become wiser, and you know. And that was the beginning of fake news in the world. Today, it has assumed very wide dimension. And it has affected the society negatively. Here in Ondo State, we have been able to ensure that if we cannot totally eradicate it, let us reduce it to a barest minimum. And that was why we set up a task force. And task force is doing exceedingly well. In fact, as of today, the issue of fake news, fake journalists is not rampant in Ondo State because we have been very proactive. And we experience this more when there are events in the state. You see journalists from different parts of the country coming to Ondo State. But what we do is the task force will swing into action and will be able to separate the wheat from the chaff. That is, the real from the pseudo journalists. And that is why in Ondo State we don't have the issue of fake news, fake journalists. It's not rampant. We thank God for that.
Okay. Let's come to this angle of it that the profession sometimes could be strenuous, could be tasking. Now, how do you feel that the profession is being well or truly practiced in Nigeria as it should be?
Well, let me start this way. Journalists, by the nature of our job, are endangered. We are an endangered species of human being because we go out daily facing series of problems, trouble. There are those who have lost their life in the process of gathering news. There are those who cannot sleep with their two eyes closed because of what they have been able to write, what they have published to the public. There are those who have to escape from the country and go on exile. This is because the job is very hazardous. You see journalists on the war front. Some lost their life in the process. Even when the international conventions state that journalists must be protected on the battlefield. There are people who will not want to come near a journalist because they believe journalists are dangerous to the society. It is not true. We are helping the society to grow. The government also will not want to have business with the journalist because he believes, because it is the business of the journalists to hold them accountable. Even with the passage of Freedom of Information Act, journalists are still being denied access to information. And journalists have to go and do a lot of investigation to ensure that we bring out what will be in the interest of the society by holding them accountable. So it's a serious problem for journalists in Nigeria. Thank God things are a bit better now that we are under a democratic dispensation. During the military era, it was a Herculean task to get information, and once you publish anything, even if it is correct and the government feels it affects it, you are in trouble. Recently, we have a journalist who lost his life. There are situations where families and friends and colleagues of journalism who have to are oppressed, are tormented when they cannot lay their hand on the journalist himself. So it's a big problem. Though God has been helping us. It is a job we have chosen to do and will continue to do.
On the issue of PIB, that is Information Bill. Sir, what is your take on this? Do you subscribe to it being passed?
The Freedom of Information?
Yes, Freedom of Information Bill.
the freedom of information have been enacted and signed into law a few years back. But the problem we have with it is, how do we ensure that it is put into use, particularly as it affects the government? The law gives free access to journalists to obtain information from the government. But there are a lot of ways by which they debar journalists from getting access to that information. The law stipulates that even if you have been there and within 7 days you make an application that you want to have access to certain documents, if it's not released to you within 7 days, you have a right to go to court. Yet, have we been able to utilize it? The idea is that the idea behind this is to make government open to the people. But the functionaries of government devise series of methods to ensure that we don't have access to government. Sometimes we become frustrated. Come today, come tomorrow, come next week. We become tired. These are the problems that has to do with the Freedom of Information Act. But hopefully, we are enlightening we are telling our colleagues what to do. And with time, we will get there.
Thank you. Definitely with time, we will get there. Yes, in Ondo State, let's now come down to look at it from this angle that, of course, the journalists in Ondo State, like you said earlier, that they are indeed professionals. So what is the council doing sometimes, to alleviate their sovereigns when it comes to when they are in need of one or two things? What effort has been put in place by the council?
Well, as the leader of journalists in Ondo State, I know that under my watch, we have been able to design a lot of welfare packages for the benefit of our people. For instance, when the COVID-19 was biting very hard on the populace, we distributed palliatives, give financial assistance to some of our members periodically. Apart from that, we also ensure that journalists in Ondo State are not molested in the course of carrying out their duties. We have had cause to engage the government on a number of occasions, and we have been having very good relationship with the government of Ondo State. The security agencies, we have good rapport with them. And in that kind of the situation, our job of the journalist is made easier, because the kind of relationship we have contacted with them, they are very important. Even the public see us as friends because of the way we relate with them. Ours is to ensure that we perform our duty as a social responsibility by ensuring that we do our job conscientiously, without bias, with serious objectivity, and ensuring that we are fair to all concerned. So in all those things, like I said, that the journalists here are thoroughbred professionals who knows their own laws, and that is why we are proud of them, and we are assisting them to succeed in their various assignments.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Just before we'll be calling it a day on this segment, we learned the union in Ondo State is trying to award some journalists. How true is this?
Well, let me say this. Award is meant to act, an award is meant to act as a catalyst or a morale booster for anybody who has done well to do more. For this year, our activities have been lined up for a week-long activities, which we tagged the press week. And one of the persons that we want to confer on is the president of KAFTAN TV, Barrister Adewale. He has done very well.
Why him?
Yes, he has done well, very well. Apart from the fact that he is the person that brought the first private television station in Ondo State. He has been responsive to his duties as the proprietor by ensuring that salaries of staff, members of NUJ working in the sales administration are paid regularly. All the necessary welfare packages are given to them. We are very grateful to him. We also know, and it is a public knowledge too, that he is a community leader. He has contributed immensely to the development of his immediate environment, particularly the Ondo Kingdom. There are times when he has to come to the rescue of people around him. There is no event celebrated, a communal event celebrated along the town, along the kingdom, that it will not have an impact. He has been identified by our union as a prominent community development man, apart from being a media guru. So putting all this together, how do we encourage him to do more? How do we prepare him to do more in the service of his community and mankind? The best way, which we have identified, is for us to give him an award, to celebrate him, to let him know that we realize, we know the importance of what he's doing for the people and for the media industry in Ondo State. This is the brain behind this award. We are happy to associate with him, and we know that by doing this, we'll be encouraging him to do more, not only for Ondo Kingdom, but for Ondo State and humanity in general.
Thank you so much too, sir. Of course, it's been good having Comrade Adeton Aderaboye, the NUJ chairman in Ondo State. Thank you so much, sir, for having you around us. And I want to believe that when next we call on you, you definitely answer us.
Thank you, my dear colleague, because I'm happy to be featured in this program. I want to say that anytime my attention is required, I'll be there for you.
Thank you so much, sir, for having you. Our dear viewers at home, of course, yes, we've just been talking with the NUJ chairman in Ondo State, in person of Comrade Aderaboye Adetona. He has been able to tell us one or two things, to inform us about one or two things concerning journalists in Ondo State. Of course, by this special grace of Almighty God, we want to believe that when next we come on board, you will definitely be alive to join us and to watch us. From here in Ondo State, Tebitoko Adedeji is my name. Thank you, and God bless.